Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. Win Again Academy doing some great things with their networking events. Check out winagainacademy.com. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we welcome Rob Thompson to the Wolff Den. Rob, how's everything going today?
Man, that was a heck of an intro. I loved it. Life is good. No complaints, man.
Well, great to have you here. We're going to dive into a ton of things, but for people who don't know who you are, give us a little bit of an intro.
So I spent 30 years in the sports and entertainment industry, majority of the time with the National Football League, working on all their fan development programs, both here domestically and internationally, with the Walt Disney Company, with Family Face and Media event properties, focus on Disney Channel, Radio Disney, Disney XD, was a GM in the Arena Football League, was owner-operator of Hoop It Up Basketball, so a grassroots sports platform that we brought 3-on-3 basketball here to qualifiers for the Olympics this summer. We sold that business in 2016. I exited and wrote a book, started a podcast, what most white guys who are 50s do, and went back to my alma mater to help them raise money to go to Division I. And I started a nonprofit association called GamePlanU.org, which is down below. And that's focusing on sports tech startups and connecting them to angel investors, executives in the industry, and up-and-coming talent. So it's an ecosystem of folks that are in that world. We align with venture capital groups. We align with pilot programs, with accelerators. We provide some of our own angel seed money through a syndicate. And we're constantly looking for deal flow that's in the sports tech, i.e. health and wellness, media space. Anything that has to do with technology, that has to do with media, and have to do with making you healthy, really is where we're looking for deal flow.
Well, that's a ton. Great resume, and we'll dive in. I played in a tournament called Hagus Hoopla, which was University of Massachusetts at UMass every year, which is a 3-on-3. It was their Hoop It Up. Yeah. You see Hoop It Up. I mean, 3-on-3 is big, right? You got the big three. And as you said, Olympics. Well, we got Kenyon Barry, who played for the Gators, is I think on the U.S. team, hoping to qualify. It should be a pretty interesting addition to the Olympics. I love 3-on-3 basketball, 4-on-4. I think I'd much rather play that now than full court. Not because I'm older and it's harder to run up and down. I just think it's a better brand of basketball. It's harder to kind of fake it and go through it. So looking forward to seeing the 3-on-3 in the Olympics. I don't see Hoop It Up around too much. Did they stopped after you exited?
No. Kevin Garnett's group owns it now, and they're actually doing a documentary, I think, for Netflix on the history of Hoop It Up, because it's been around. It's an iconic brand. Yeah. There's so many great players and so many great executives that have played it or worked on it. It's kind of this it's kind of this in the sports industry. If you've worked on Hoop It Up, it's a badge of honor, because Street Ball Partners owned Hoop It Up. They owned NFL Air It Out. They owned NHL Breakout. They owned all the grassroots properties, and we eventually had a group that bought them back in 2012. But Hoop It Up was, to me, that 3-on-3 basketball, the way it's played now on the global scale, it's a little bit different. Like once you score, the ball's live. It's not, you don't check it back out again. Yeah. The shot clock, it's a little bit less of a street game and more of if you can't shoot, you're not winning. It's not like a big man's game. The U.S. men's team has never really won any national championships. You have to qualify. So you just can't, because you're LeBron James, you have to qualify to get in, like to make a team. So, and to be part of a team. So they've eliminated just the NBA and USA basketball, stacking it. So globally, the U.S. doesn't do well. It's always, Serbia and those countries over there that just have 7-footers that can shoot threes. Now, the women's side of it, we dominate, because our women, are so much more advanced from just playing pure basketball. But 3-on-3 basketball, as you know, Matt, it exposes players that can't really play, that aren't good fundamentally, because it's that old Princeton, triangle offense. It's backdoor. If you can't, you kick it out and you shoot a three. Teams that want to play with their back to the basket, like a lot of Americans do, that it doesn't work. It doesn't. That's why we can't go over there with a bunch of big guys and just feel like we're gonna win it. And I've seen it too many times, So it's interesting. I've seen a rec team from San Antonio, just amateur players, go out and beat the U.S. national team out in Colorado Springs. Like, not just beat them, like crush them. Just left these guys who are all former NBA, and so we're in trouble if we think we're going to send just some NBA players over there. It's not going to work. So,
yeah, I play a lot of pickup basketball, 3-on-3 and 4-on-4, and I've played against some players who are like incredible. Like it's unbelievable the amount of talent that's out there that didn't play, major Division I or even NBA. That's one of them, because there's not a lot of roster spots, right? You got 12 people, 30 teams, and everyone plays basketball. It's not like football where you got 50, 60 guys and there's all these other leagues. And so it's I'm excited. I'm excited for that. So I didn't know that you were a part of the Hoop It Up, which is, like you said, everyone knows Hoop It Up. Talk about the book that you wrote. A lot of books out there. What made you want to write a book, and what was the process like?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I'd never had a book. I think all of us have an idea of a book, but my book was more of a place to help me mentally get unstuck. I was kind of in this place where sold the business. Now that I was in the industry for 30 years, I was like, what do I do now? I don't want to be that guy who's a consultant for the next 20 years of my life. I want to do something that's has meaning and has purpose. So I just saw, some of these folks that were putting books out there, and I said, you know what? Good for them. Good for them. I have a story to tell that I want to tell as well, because I had a lot of people coming to me at that time saying, you were this unlikely guy who wove himself in and outside of this industry, who was an entrepreneur back in, and I told the story of how I struggled with dyslexia my whole life. And I struggled earlier on once I realized what it was and how I manage it. And what the good things about dyslexia is emotional intelligence, which a lot of people talk about. Back then it was street smarts. I always used to say, Thompson, you got really good street smarts. What it was is emotional intelligence. You have good intuition and good feeling. So you may not be able to finish a book and read it, but you could read the hell out of people. And that was the foundation of my career, of kind of being able to really put those pieces together, whether it was putting together sponsorship deals for the Walt Disney Company and understanding both sides of the table and understanding reading people, what their needs were, which was such a key piece of it, or whether it was starting an arena football team from scratch and signing every single player and then going and tearing off and, going 32-6 in 2 years and winning all kinds of awards for the most wins out of an expansion team. And so but it came down to reading people. So whether I was scouting or whatever. So, for me, I wanted to tell that story that I was the average guy. The name of the book was How to Land a Dream Job If Dad Doesn't Own the Team. So it insinuates sports, but it really wasn't about that. And it wasn't that my dad wasn't an amazing and is an amazing guy. And, he was a blue collar guy. He didn't know, Roger Goodell's father was a state senator of New York. He got a job with the Jets. I wonder how, so God bless him if he's able to do that. I'm rooting for that, good or bad, and your viewpoint of it. But my point is, how do you do it from nothing? How do you do it without any real doors open into the industry? So I wanted it for the everyday person, that kid who just got out of has a sport management degree, or that guy or lady who has following a career path that they hate, that they want to follow their passion. This is a book about that, not about how to write a resume. None of that matters, right? It's about skill set that you need. It's more about your attitude and how you can prepare yourself, your lifestyle. Who are your mentors? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And so my foundation, if I just look back and said, what were what were the things that happened in my life to get me there, and what did I realize about it, and how could I help other people who are asking me all the time, how'd you do it? So I just wrote, it's really more of a guide. I mean, it's less than 100 pages, so I won't even consider it a book, but it's more of a guide. It's a playbook. So I published it on Amazon, and my process was I basically outlined it. I said what were all my steps? What were some of the similarities without even, thinking of your process? And I put them all together in this guide. I wrote a PowerPoint. I used my podcast. So I put some people that I've interviewed in my podcast. Steve Hogan, the CEO of the Florida Citrus Sports. He started off selling the parade. Now he's been the CEO of Citrus Sports down in Orlando forever. And this guy, Tom McGroom, who was my mentor, who coached college football for 35 years, he's got an amazing story. These guys that no one heard of, but coached Division I forever. And got Emmett Smith almost to go to Brown, just crazy stories, and there's so many people like that, but you need a place to start. And this place to start is not about what it's about really knowing yourself, what you're good at, what your skill sets are, being unrealistic about your dreams. Sometimes it doesn't mean you can't dream big, but the chances are, Matt, you and I aren't going to be the general manager of the New York Giants anytime soon, but can we fit somewhere in that organization or a part of that organization? Yeah. So my whole analogy in that is, here's the reality of it. Just because you graduate with a sport management degree from the University of Massachusetts doesn't mean anything, because no one cares. Right? No one cares. The only thing they care about is whether you're good enough, you have the right attitude, the right effort, and the right talent to do the job. Right. So it comes down to it. Even though, when I look at, my athletic career, I quit, when you're young, you feel like everybody's going to, I played 44 NCAA college football games. I played 22 professional games. No one cares. Why? Because they don't know who I am. I was a lineman, right? And I didn't go to Notre Dame, or I didn't go to Alabama. I played at a small Division II college in Connecticut. No one cares. So I had to do it as a professional. And so that's my point. My point is, it's there for anybody. It just depends on how bad you want it, and how much, you can utilize the tools that are readily available for you today, just like this podcast. It's for you to be able to get your name and your brand and tell your story, and to be able to share other people's stories. So I think those that sit around and say, well, it's me, the door's not open. How do I get into the sports industry? It's available for anybody and anywhere. You could be in the sports industry with a podcast, and you're in the industry, so that's what the book is about. The second one, Sports Dream Job Playbook, is more of a workbook, as well as part of some coaching that I do with a lot of career seekers, those who are pivoting, and active and recently retired militaries who I help. Yeah. So
do you know Joe McHugh?
Joe McHugh?
Joe Kuroga? I have to connect you with him. He's ex-military, who's kind of started in the getting into the sports world, and I think he started a podcast, or he guests on a podcast. I'll have to get you connected with him.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's a couple of points that you had. I had a conversation with someone who used to work for the Jets, and he went into a family business and said to me, he's like, man, I really have a lot of respect for what you're doing. I didn't realize how hard it is when you don't have $1 billion brand behind you, and nobody knows who you are, and nobody, you're a nobody out in there. And it's true. It's, kudos to the people who can have access to that. And it's great. You got to run with it, take it and run with it. But not everyone has that. And so they have to find their own way. And people need help. Everyone, even the people like Roger, still needed. He got the job. He still needed help to get where he needed to do. Did a great job, but he still needed help, either to get it initially or then to get there. So it's a great story. And you're right. Everyone's got a story to tell. There's so many great stories out there. I always say we keep elevating. We keep talking about the same old stories and elevating the same people, and it's a little tired and stale. There's a new voice of people who are out there who have just as great a story, and they just, maybe they're not as well known. And so we need to elevate that. And that's part of what I do for here on the Wolff Den, is to try and bring these stories that people never heard of out into the open and keep it going and get them some attention.
It's kind of like, if you think about your own life, and I'm talking to everybody, Matt, it's think about your own life and think about the people that in those lives and those jobs that you had that got promoted or became the vice president or became a supervisor, or someone like on LinkedIn now that became LinkedIn famous, right? There's certain people out there that are really good at self-promotion. And that matters. We got whether you like it or not. It's called managing up, right? And those people that are really good in LinkedIn, you look at their resume, you look at what they've done, most of which haven't really done anything spectacular. A lot of them are kind of hiding behind the fact that maybe they worked for a little while with an agent or a team for 1 or 2 years. That's okay. There's other people out there that raise money, right? For startups that are great at raising money. I could go out and you're like, how did they just raise $3 million? Because they're great at telling the story. They're great at the managing up. They're great at the presentation. Now the key is, can they follow that up and have some substance and some talent behind it, right? Can they execute on that business? Say what you want. Roger Goodell got the job, but it was his job to try to keep it, right? And have some talent and have some effort behind it. Whether, like I said, whether you like it or not, I don't even know why I use him as an example, but I think it's because everybody knows who he is. So if you have a startup and you can't raise money, or if you can't really help your career, you can't be that vice president. It's you. It's not them. It's you. Whether you're gossiper, you're negative, it's, oh my gosh, you're negative Nancy, right? You're woe is me. It's my fault. I don't want to work on the weekend, right? Or I don't want to work because I have a startup and I'm going to take my family on vacation. It's you. It's not the investor's fault. It's not anybody else's fault. It's your fault. No one's coming to save you, right? So I think that's the difference between a lot of people who are, this platform, LinkedIn, those of us who jumped into it, we use it for certain reasons. Some people are using it to build the community. Other people are using it to share. Other people use it for business development. I've used it for all three, right? So it depends on what you're using it for. I had my career. I never self-promoted myself to be in Sports Business Journal, which is, for those who do know, that's the trade magazine for the sports industry for years. I wasn't the guy who's a 30 under 30. But I'm the guy that a lot of people who are in the trenches, who are on the sidelines with the walkie-talkies, who are in this industry, they know, because I was one of them. I was the guy behind the scenes, And so there's something that's to be said for that. And there's okay to have that career, and it's okay to have that life, and if you could carve it out and do something that you think is meaningful and you have purpose and you find that you have your own community, you don't need 1 million followers on LinkedIn or on Instagram. You don't need that. If you have 5,000, if you have 1,000 that are loyal to you, that are going to buy your book, that are going to, that are going to watch you. And then if you do something else, they're going to follow you. They're going to be your friend. They're going to hire you, So I think people aren't willing to do what you're doing, Matt. People aren't willing to do a podcast. People aren't willing to do a book because they think they're going to get judged, or they don't want to put in the time and effort. For me, I want to help those people get unstuck to do it. I didn't play 44 college football games, 22 pro games because I just decided to show up on a Saturday, right? I had to put in the work, and I never realized it until later on in life when I realized I got to put in the work for business too. That means you got to miss things. You got to miss birthdays. You got to travel. You got to work on the weekends. You got to take that call on vacation. You got to be willing to do that. If you're not, then it's okay if you want to be, if you settle for a nice, comfortable life, and you settle for a nice, comfortable career. It's okay to do that too, but don't bitch about other people that are doing it, and don't be envious of it, because you could be you too. Because we all, like you said, have a story to tell. I'll stop talking. That's way too long of a.
Yeah, you're describing the whole Tim Tebow situation. Everyone's hating on Tebow. We talked about that, but yeah, he's getting maybe some looks that other people wouldn't get, but he's earned all of that. He's only getting those looks because all of the work he put in to get to this point in his life and the success he had in the stuff he was doing. So, kudos to him. If he makes the team, great. If he doesn't, he wasn't good enough, but he's going to get there and have to earn his spot. And it's crazy to see how many people hating on him because he's where he's at. He's where he's at because he's about as hardworking a person as I've seen. And obviously I don't know him personally, but it's just, he looks to be the real deal. He looks to be who he is. And there's a lot of people who aren't that way. So yeah, I agree. You got to put in the work. You got to be willing to do it. I don't know I don't think that I would have been able to do this 10 years ago because I would have been lazy. I would have been like, I can't miss this. I can't do that. And so timing is everything for me. I'm willing to miss whatever I need to miss and do whatever I need to do and talk to whoever I need to talk to. And it's tough. It's hard, but it's rewarding when you get those little wins, and it's rewarding to know that you're doing what you love. So to your point, if you want to be in sports, get into sports. And sports, like you just said, if I want to do a podcast in sports, I'm in sports. It could be anything. I mean, there's so many different things that are in the sports area. Just do it. If you're an intern at a league that no one's ever heard of, that's a great start. Just get in, figure it out from there, and show why you should be elevated or moved elsewhere.
Yeah. Tebow's that's a whole different podcast. Yeah.
We talked about that last night. It's crazy. It's crazy to me how, you said Michael Jordan played baseball, and Tebow was not a Hall of Famer by any stretch, but he was pretty good on, I messaged someone the other day, asked me to play golf, and I'm like, well, I'm not really great at golf, but I'm pretty good for someone who rarely ever plays. Like that's to go into something and just be able to compete at that level. People don't understand how difficult that level is. It's like, you go from high school to college, and because you played, it's a whole nother world. And now you go from college to pro, and it's a whole nother world. It's the same game, but you're playing, boys against men, and physically and mentally. I mean, they'll eat you up.
It's I mean, from a fan's perspective, and even current players that came out and bashed it, I totally get it. But he's a first-time NFL coach, and if you're going to go to war, he's won a lot of football games with that guy, and I get it. And that was a long time ago. It was but if you want to go to war sometimes, and you're going to battle, and you want some people on your team that are going to be the foxhole with you, so I get that. And there's going to be 10 other players that they signed that no one else has really heard of, but he's probably coached them at some point, whether at Florida or Ohio. He's going to surround himself with those kids that he's probably known since they've been 18 years old. He's known Tim Tebow since he was in high school.
Yeah.
So those guys are going to eliminate themselves after a while, but you want to go, if you're going to go to war, if you're going to go to, battle, and you want the most people around you that believe in you, that are on your side. And so I don't blame him for that. I just, anyways, but I totally get both sides of that story, because there's a lot of talented guys that he's taken a spot up that probably should, have that spot. But, hey, we all have to learn.
If they're good enough, they'll find a spot somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
I get it.
There's only limited, but I totally get it. It is definitely tough, but sometimes, the devil is better than the devil you don't know, so what you're getting with Tim Tebow. If you sign him, he's probably going to be a stretch. Depends on what kind of offense they run and what position they have him in. I mean, Brady's how old, and Brady's still out there. Some guys are just freaks. How many guys in the NFL that played for a long time that you never heard of? Offensive linemen that could go 15 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I understand both sides of it, though. So I think, anyways, no one's really going to win in that argument.
I think he's going to prove to be good enough to earn a spot. Like he'll provide to the team, and it's not always on, because you got people who'll never see the field, who never ever see the field in any sport, who bring a lot of value to the team. Like the whole Rudy story. Right?
Well, I mean, in the NFL, all those guys are on the field. They're all playing special teams, so everybody's playing. Everybody's getting a dirty uniform. You're not getting off that field without getting a little sweat in. So, I mean, they're paying you. You're playing. So, he'll play if he makes the roster. But I don't. He's not gonna stay on if he's just gonna be a special teams guy. I doubt that. He'll probably just say cut me loose, But it's gonna be fun to watch. It's another, it's something. At least makes Jacksonville interesting.
Well, I think Jacksonville was interesting before that with Trevor and Etienne. I think they're going to be very fun to watch. You got Meyer. I figure he'll, kind of catch some people by surprise in a way with the NFL, and I think they're going to be, a pretty good team, fun to watch. Tonight is an exciting time for us
Yeah.
It's the NFL schedule release,
Yeah,
and
it's
that
coming.
allows us to plan our sports weekend. And then once I know where I'm going for sports weekend, now I can plan my trips for college. So it's an exciting time. You know, NFL, I would say the NFL has done the best out of any sport in promote. I don't even know what you want to call it, promoting themselves or expanding, or just really it's the brand between the draft and the schedule. It's everything's a big production. And so I think they do a great job with that. I think better than everyone else. How did that happen? You were there. What did you see about the organization that allowed them to do that?
I think it's the secret that now everybody can talk about. It's the betting. It's the greatest game to bet on, you know, and those degenerate gamblers out there love it. That and horse racing and, you know, so I think people who know that are laughing about it. I mean, yeah, you're passionate about your team. I remember going over to a premier soccer game over in Europe when I played over in England. That's where I played professionally. And, you could go up and get a beer and bet on the game right there, right at the beer stand. I'm going to grab a pint and I'm going to bet on the game before it started, obviously. And then you could bet during like other things that happened in the game, you know, and second half stuff. And it was crazy. And this was back in the early 90s.
Did you play in the World League?
No, before that. So it was between the World League and NFL Europe. So there was, the passion was about your home soccer team, but it was also because everybody was gambling. Everybody had money on the game, you know, and it's legal. It was legal over there forever. Now you brought that here. It was always a deep, dark secret here in the United States, right? I mean, it wasn't a secret. Everybody knew that you could get your slips and you could bet. Now, you know, that was it, Matt. I mean, yeah, it's a great sport, but it's without a doubt the greatest sport to gamble on. And I'm not a gambler, but you know, so I think between that fantasy that you play once a week, so it builds up excitement, it becomes a routine, it becomes part of, you know, our weekend in the fall. I think that was it. I think just by circumstance and a lot of the stars aligned for it to be such an incredible, you know, coincidence. And then on top of it, you layer college and high school into that as popular. You know, I just, you know, people talk about soccer, and I don't mean to go down this rabbit hole as being the next, until you get more than 10 parents sitting at a high school soccer game and maybe 100 people at a college game. I don't see it happening as much as what college and the NFL has been able to do, you know. Plus you got a lot of smart people, and then the growth of TV, obviously, has expanded that. I mean, the NFL, if they didn't have another person walk into their gates all next season, they're still making money, right? Because, you know, so licensing fees and the broadcast media rights deals are so enormous that you're still making. I'll be right there. So anyways.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that is, you know, that you hear a lot of the complaints during the pandemic about how much money was lost. It wasn't lost. It just wasn't earned. It wasn't gained. So
that's right.
They're going to be just fine. They might even be better off not playing.
Yeah, it's true. But anyways, Matt, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man. We could do it again. I enjoyed it. And we went down the rabbit hole of talk about teams, but I appreciate it. And it's been fun watching you grow your business over the last year or so.
I got one last question that we ask everyone. You can spend 24 hours with someone. They have to be living. You can't be related to them. Who are you picking that you've never been with? And we're going to make it happen for one of our guests.
Oh, wow. They have to be living.
Yeah. Got to be living.
I would love to sit down and have dinner. I think it would be great to have dinner with Lou Holtz.
Lou Holtz. All right. The new one. We're going to put Lou Holtz on the list.
Put Lou Holtz on the list.
Got a hell of a story to tell. Yeah. Family too. So Lou Holtz on the list. Check out gameplanu.org. We'll have you on again and we'll talk about the rest of this stuff, and have a great day.
Thanks, Matty.
All right. Thanks.
See you, man.